Okay, now that we've got our fabric in a hoop, not that that's necessary, but now that it's marked with the centerpiece, right there with that little blue square, and we've got my needle threaded, we're going to start stitching 1 stitch up from the center of the chart and 5 stitches over, it looks like. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with an away waist knot. This is the right-handed video. If you're left-handed, you'll want to pull the other one up probably. Although you can try with either, because I've discovered that sometimes I do actually stitch with my non-dominant hand. Tie a knot at the end of your thread. Doesn't matter if it's neat. Now there are 2 ways to start an away waist knot. You can start it somewhere along the line of the stitching that you're going to make, and then just then make sure that you cover them on the back as you stitch. That doesn't really work for me. I like to start it a couple inches away, and we're going to start one square up and 1, 2, 3, 4 squares over. Or is that 5? 5 squares over, one more, and pull the thread up. Now, I was stitching with my left hand under the fabric there, but you can put your right hand under it and stitch that way too. In fact, that's probably easier if you're holding the hoop. So what we're going to do is we're going to make, looks like 9 stitches across here, and you do that by bringing this up 1 square and over 1 so that you're making a diagonal stitch, and then you pull the thread down through the fabric, and you do that 9 times. What I'm doing is I'm pushing it up from the bottom, bringing my hand back up, pulling it up. This is the stabbing method of stitching. It's done using all one hand. If you have a floor stand, like I do, here, or you prop your hoop on your hip, or a table in front of you, 6, you can put one hand under, catch the needle with the underneath hand, and then push it back up that way. I don't think this is going to be completely centered, but that's okay because we've got plenty of margin around the outside that 1 stitch is not, or 2 is not going to cause problems. So that's 9. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So when you're at the end of that row, we're going to turn around and go back the other way. Now what I just started to do and stopped in the middle is called railroading. I will sometimes pet the threads so that they lace flat, and that keeps them laying next to each other when they go up, rather than twisting. You can also slip your needle between the 2 threads and pull that down, and that also will keep the twist from coming in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, this is the end of this row of Kelly green. We'll pull that back down the back, and we'll get the chart back out and set my needle over here a little bit. Show you with this. This was this row right here. Now we're going to move down to this row, so we're going to go out 1 and do 2 stitches. We'll come back later and fill in this and fill in the other colors. I won't show you all of it, I'll just get you started, and we'll go down a little bit here, and then when I'm getting close to running out of thread, I will show you how to finish off both sides of the thread, and you can then start the rest of your stitching by weaving through the back rather than starting with an away knot. So there were 2 stitches here. 1, 2, and we go right back. And the next row is another 2 stitches, out 1 again. So over 1. Now when you do this, I'll show you when we get to the back, this way, the back of your fabric will end up almost as neat as the front. So we've had 2, 2, now we've got a row of 1 each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertical stitches. And to do that, you just stitch it like each 1 stitch is a row. So there's 1, and we're going to go down. Now if I have to skip more than 1 or 2 squares between stitches, for example, if there was another stitch here, I might bring, or here rather, I might make this row this way by just going down and skipping that one and continuing along. Same with if there were 2 squares between. I might pop over here and do the next one. Because there are 5 or so, looks like 5, what I'll do is instead of stitching them across this way horizontally, I will come back later and put in those 3 up here, up in this area, and the row down the middle, the column down the middle. Okay, looks like I'm starting to run out of thread here. Were there 5 or 4? 5. Okay, so this is... Now if I was stitching this for me, I tend to push it. I would probably stitch a couple more rows instead of just the 2 stitches here with this. But it's easier to work off threads to bind off threads and weave them in on the end if they're longer, if the end of the thread is longer rather than shorter. So we'll turn this over. Forgive the mess, I've got a project in progress on the chair over there. So this is the back of your stitching. Let's see how all of the stitches you've made that are X's on the front are vertical lines on the back. So to weave in ends, you just weave them in. You go underneath those threads, and then I like to go up a vertical thread, and I'll just, over and over whip stitching it. You can also alternate, so you go in this way and then back this way. And that's what I do if I've got a vertical line and not a bunch of other things. So we'll trim that off. You'll notice this is yet another pair of scissors from the one I was using earlier. Now, this has a knot on the side. It's not a very big knot. I can pull it through. I don't recommend that, but you can sometimes. Or you could have just clipped it off on the front, which is probably the safer way to do. And then just pull your scissors up to the end where that knot is and clip the knot off. Now this is a shorter piece of finishing end. Now I've got a longer line here to finish off my end this time. So I'm just going to go through underneath 4 or 5 stitches oops, excuse my lots of hands, and pull that close, pull that through. Now, believe it or not, you don't need knots on the back. This will hold. I embroider on clothing as well, and I haven't had, as long as I go under at least 5 stitches and possibly go back and forth on the verticals as much as possible, I have had no problem throwing them in the washing machine and just going from there. But that's how you do a cross stitch. And then to finish it, to continue, you'll cut another piece of thread, or pull 2 more out for the green, and you can continue the green, and then you'll fill it in with the next color, which is that funky little design, the square inside a square. That's the royal blue. And add the yellow in the middle here, and at the eyes and beak, and just keep going until you have a picture. As I said earlier, it's pretty much like color by number, and it's a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.